The hospital hallway smelled like bleach and tired prayers. People rushed past with their heads down, pretending they couldn't hear the crying behind thin curtains. At the far end, under a flickering exit sign, a wheelchair sat perfectly still. A young woman was strapped into it with a gray safety belt. Her legs lay quiet and useless beneath a worn blanket. One hand clutched the armrest, the other rested over a round, pregnant stomach as if she was guarding the only thing the world hadn't taken yet. She didn't look up when nurses walked by. She didn't ask for water. She didn't even blink fast. She stared at the floor like she was counting every crack in the tile one by one until her heart stopped. That was the moment my mom saw her. My mom's name is Madison Carter. She's the kind of woman who makes strangers feel safe without even trying. Soft voice, steady eyes, the sort of calm you can borrow when your own life is falling apart. But that day, even Madison froze. Her steps slowed like the air had turned to syrup. I followed her gaze and saw the girl. The girl finally lifted her eyes, and I swear the temperature in the hallway dropped. Not because she looked scary, because she looked done. Like someone who had learned the cruelest lesson early: hope is expensive and it always charges interest. If you're here to stare, the girl said, voice flat, do it quick. People don't like being near me for long. My mom swallowed, then stepped closer, careful, like you approach a wounded animal. I'm not here to stare, she said. I'm here to sit, if that's okay. The girl let out a short laugh that wasn't funny. People don't sit with problems, they file paperwork and walk away. My mom sat anyway. The girl's name was Chloe Reynolds. On paper, she was my dad's stepdaughter from a second marriage that ended years ago. In real life, she was a secret nobody wanted to claim. My father had tried to help her from a distance, rent money here, groceries there. But then he died suddenly, and the last thin thread holding Chloe to a normal life snapped in half. After the funeral, the calls stopped. The promises evaporated. Even the relatives who hugged her in public didn't answer her texts at night. Now Chloe was 7 months pregnant, disabled after a crash that shattered her spine, and dumped into a public hospital because no private clinic would keep her without a guardian to sign the forms. The only person listed as emergency contact was my mom. We didn't even know her number had been written down. A doctor had pulled Madison aside earlier that morning, his face tight with worry. She's medically fragile, he'd said. But the bigger problem is psychological. Stress can trigger premature labor. She needs stability support, someone consistent. Otherwise, we could lose both. Chloe must have heard. She watched my mom with narrowed eyes, waiting for the moment the kindness would turn into a lecture or a goodbye. Madison opened her purse and placed a small container on the bedside tray. Chicken noodle, she said. Not fancy, but it's warm. Chloe stared at it like it was a trap. Why? She asked, sharp. You don't owe me anything. Madison didn't flinch. You're carrying a baby, she said. And you're here alone, that's enough. Chloe's jaw tightened. I'm not your daughter, Madison nodded once. I know. Silence stretched. Machines beeped. Somewhere down the hall, a newborn wailed like the world was already unfair. Chloe's eyes flickered to my mom's hands, clean nails, wedding ring gone, knuckles pale from holding back emotion. Everyone shows up at first, Chloe whispered. Then they get tired, they remember they have real families. Madison leaned in, her voice low so only Chloe could hear. Then don't get used to me, she said. Get used to breathing. Get used to surviving. I'm not leaving today. Chloe looked away fast, but a tear slipped down her cheek anyway. That night, complications hit. A nurse ran in, then another. Monitors screamed. The doctor barked orders. They pushed meds, checked vitals, adjusted oxygen. Chloe's hands shook so badly she couldn't hold the call button. Madison grabbed her fingers and laced them tight. Look at me, she said. Stay with me. Chloe tried to speak, but fear swallowed her voice. After things calmed, the doctor pulled my mom into the corridor again. Her blood pressure spikes when she panics, he warned. If this continues, she could go into labor early, and with her condition, it's risky. Madison's face didn't change, but her eyes did. They hardened the way they do when a mother decides something before her mouth catches up. She walked back in and sat beside Chloe's bed like it was her assigned seat in life. Chloe stared at her for a long time, then finally asked the question hiding under every insult. What do you want from me? Madison's answer was simple. Nothing, she said. I just don't want your baby to enter the world with no one waiting. Chloe's lips trembled. People don't wait for me. Madison squeezed her hand. I do. Chloe closed her eyes, and for the first time in months, she slept. Not because she trusted the hospital, not because she believed in miracles. She slept because someone stayed long enough for her body to stop bracing for abandonment. But I saw Madison's face in the dim light. She wasn't relaxed. She was terrified because she knew something Chloe didn't. In this hospital, in this system, a crisis always demanded a choice. And the choice that was coming would break somebody's heart. The question wasn't whether Chloe would give birth. The question was, who would be left alive to hold the baby afterward? Near midnight, a social worker rolled in a clipboard. Her badge read County Services. "Miss Reynolds," she said, "we need signatures in case of an emergency delivery. If you can't decide, the state will." Chloe's breath shortened. "I have someone," she lied. "No guardian on record," the worker replied. "The father? He's gone," Chloe whispered. Madison stepped in. "I'm here. I'll sign as her medical advocate." The worker narrowed her eyes. "Family?" Madison hesitated, then said, "Yes." As the pen scratched paper, a man's shadow slid across the doorway, ball cap, heavy boots, eyes like ice. Chloe saw him and went pale. "That's him," she breathed. "He said he'd take the baby." The man vanished. In his place lay a folded note. Madison opened it. 2 words in angry ink, UOME. "They say if you're still watching at this point, it means the story already owns you. So before what happens next breaks your heart, make sure you stay with me because this part changes everything." The note shook in my mother's hand. UOME, just 2 words, but they carried the weight of a threat that didn't need explanation. Madison Carter felt it immediately, the cold realization that Chloe's past wasn't finished with her. Not even close. "Who was that man?" my mom asked calmly, even though her pulse was racing. Chloe turned her face toward the wall. Her voice came out small, cracked, ashamed. "The baby's father." Madison froze. "I thought you said he was gone." "He comes and goes," Chloe whispered. "Mostly when he needs something, money, control, proof that I'm still weak." The machines beside the bed beeped faster, reacting to Chloe's rising stress. A nurse peeked in, then left again. Everyone in that hospital was overworked. No one had time to notice the danger walking in and out of the ward. Madison sat closer. "Did he hurt you?" Chloe nodded once. Tears soaked into the pillow. "He said if I didn't keep the baby, he'd disappear forever. Then he said if I did keep it, the baby would be his. Either way, I lose." Madison felt something snap inside her, not loudly, quietly, like a final thread breaking. "You don't owe him anything," she said. Chloe laughed bitterly. "Everyone owes someone. That's how people like him survive." That night, Madison didn't leave. She slept upright in a plastic chair, jacket pulled tight, eyes opening every time Chloe flinched in her sleep. At 3:17 a.m., Chloe woke up screaming from a nightmare, clutching her stomach, gasping for air. "He took her," Chloe cried. "He took my baby." Madison held her until the shaking stopped. In the morning, a social worker returned with another clipboard, another warning. "Miss Reynolds," she said gently, "we need to discuss post-delivery arrangements. Given your condition, the state may need to step in." Chloe's hands trembled. "Take my baby? We don't want to," the woman replied. "But without stable housing, income, or a guardian, I'll take responsibility," Madison said firmly. The room went silent. The social worker blinked. "You're her stepmother," Madison said, then corrected herself. "Family?" Chloe turned to her in shock. "You don't have to do this." Madison met her eyes. "I know." That afternoon, the man came back. This time he didn't run. He stood in the doorway like he owned the space, chewing gum, eyes sliding over Madison with open disrespect. "Didn't know you had company," he said to Chloe. "She your new replacement mom?" Madison stood. She wasn't tall, but she didn't move aside. "You're not welcome here," she said. He smirked. "That's funny because the baby is mine." "Leave," Madison repeated. He leaned closer. "You think signing papers makes you important? Blood decides." "Not you." Security was called. He left laughing, but his words stayed. That evening, Chloe broke. "What if he's right?" she sobbed. "What if the baby belongs to him more than to me?" Madison took Chloe's face in her hands. "Listen to me. Blood can create life. It doesn't give someone the right to destroy it." Chloe searched her face, desperate. "Why are you doing this for me?" Madison hesitated, then told the truth she hadn't said out loud yet. "Because I lost someone once," she said, "and I promised myself I would never ignore another person who needed me." If you're still listening, this is where you should subscribe. Because what happens next is the moment everything turns upside down. 2 days later, Chloe went into labor. Early, violent, wrong, doctors rushed in, curtains closed, orders shouted. Madison was pushed back against the wall as alarms blared. A surgeon stepped out, face tight. "There are complications," he said. "We may have to make a decision." Madison's heart stopped. "What kind of decision? Mother or baby?" Inside the room, Chloe screamed Madison's name. Madison pushed past the doctor and grabbed Chloe's hand. Chloe's eyes were wild with terror. "Promise me," she cried. "Promise you won't let him take her." Madison nodded. "I promise. But if they ask you," Chloe whispered, tears streaming, "if you have to choose," she couldn't finish. The doctor waited. Madison looked at Chloe, looked at the monitors. Looked at the unborn life that had already been used as leverage, as a weapon, as a threat. And she realized something terrifying. Whatever choice she made, someone would hate her for it. The doctor spoke again, slower now. "We need your answer." Madison closed her eyes and chose. But the consequences of that choice were about to follow them for the rest of their lives. If you're still here, it means your heart is already tied to this story. So don't look away now, and if you haven't subscribed yet, do it. Because this part is where emotions stop being safe and start hurting in ways no one forgets. Madison's choice echoed in the delivery room long after the words left her mouth. "Save the mother." The doctor nodded once. No debate, no comfort, just action. They rushed Chloe away as Madison was pushed back, her hands suddenly empty, her chest tight like the air had been stolen from it. Through the small glass window, she saw shadows moving fast, heard metal clink, heard orders she couldn't understand. Minutes felt like hours, then a sound cut through everything. A baby's cry, sharp, fragile, alive. Madison's knees nearly gave out. A nurse stepped out holding a tiny bundle, red-faced and screaming like she was furious at the world she'd just entered. "It's a girl," the nurse said quickly. "We stabilized her. She's small but strong." Madison's breath broke into a sob. "And Chloe," the nurse's expression changed. "She's alive, but she lost a lot of blood. She's unconscious. We don't know when she'll wake up." Madison nodded, forcing herself to stay upright. "Can I see the baby?" The nurse hesitated. "Legally, she'll need a name for the records and a guardian." Madison looked down at the tiny face. The baby clenched her fist like she was already fighting for space in the world. "She needs a name," Madison whispered. "Call her Lily." The name slid out naturally like it had been waiting. Lily Carter. Hours later, Chloe woke up. Her first instinct was panic. Her hand flew to her stomach, then froze when she felt it flat. Her eyes filled instantly with terror. "My baby," she croaked. "Where is she?" Madison rushed to her side. "She's alive," she said quickly. "She's okay?" Chloe cried so hard the monitor spiked again. "Thank you," she sobbed. "Thank you for choosing me. I would have died if you hadn't." Madison swallowed. She didn't tell Chloe the truth that the choice hadn't been easy or brave or clean. It had been brutal. Later that night, Madison held Lily for the first time. The baby smelled like milk and disinfectant. Her tiny fingers wrapped around Madison's thumb with shocking strength. Madison whispered, "I've got you. I don't know how yet, but I won't let you fall." That promise would be tested sooner than she imagined. 2 days later, county services returned, this time with forms and rules. "Miss Carter," the caseworker said, "given Chloe's disability and financial instability, temporary custody arrangements are required." Chloe sat upright despite the pain. "No," she said. "You can't take her." "We're not taking her," the woman replied carefully. "We're ensuring safety." Madison stepped in. "Lily will stay with me." The caseworker raised an eyebrow. "You understand this isn't temporary babysitting. This could become permanent." Madison didn't hesitate. "I understand." Chloe stared at her, eyes wide. "You'd do that? Give up your life for mine?" Madison answered honestly. "I'd expand my life." Paperwork moved fast after that. Too fast, faster than emotions could keep up. By the end of the week, Lily was discharged. Chloe wasn't. Madison carried the baby out of the hospital alone, and that's when she saw him again. The baby's father stood near the parking lot, leaning against a car, smiling like he'd been waiting for this exact moment. "Congratulations," he said. "You look like a real mom." Madison's body went cold. She tightened her grip on Lily instinctively. "You're not allowed near her," Madison said. He laughed. "Court hasn't decided that yet." Security arrived. He backed off slowly, eyes never leaving the baby. Enjoy her while you can, he said softly. Blood always comes back. That night, Madison couldn't sleep. Lily cried every 2 hours. Chloe called from the hospital, terrified and guilty. And Madison sat in the dark nursery, rocking a baby that wasn't hers, but already felt like oxygen. At 2:41 a.m., her phone buzzed. Unknown number, one message. I know where you live. Madison's hands shook. The next morning, Chloe was transferred to a rehabilitation center. When Madison told her about the message, Chloe broke down completely. He won't stop, Chloe said. He never stops. Madison looked at Lily sleeping peacefully. Then neither will I. She hired a lawyer, filed for emergency protection, started a custody case she never planned to fight. And that's when the final blow landed. A letter arrived from the court. The baby's father had filed for full custody, claiming Chloe was unfit, claiming Madison was a stranger, claiming the baby belonged to him by right. Chloe read the letter and whispered, I ruined your life. Madison shook her head. No. You gave it purpose. But deep down, she knew something terrifying. This wasn't just a legal battle. It was a war between love and entitlement. And the next part would decide who gets to call themselves family forever. If you're still watching, don't blink now. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it, because this part is where the fight stops being quiet and starts getting dangerous. The court letter sat on the kitchen table like a loaded weapon. Madison read it again and again, hoping the words would change if she stared long enough. Petition for full custody filed by biological father. Her hands tightened around the paper until it crumpled. Lily slept in the bassinet nearby, completely unaware that her entire future was being argued over by adults who saw her as a prize instead of a person. When Madison arrived at the rehab center to tell Chloe, she already knew how it would end. Chloe didn't scream, she didn't cry, she just stared at the wall and whispered, he told me he'd do this. Madison sat beside her. We'll fight him. Chloe shook her head slowly. You don't understand, he doesn't fight fair. He wins by making people tired, by making them scared. That night, Madison learned what Chloe meant. It started small. A black car parked across the street. A missed call at 1:12 a.m., a voicemail with nothing but breathing. Then it got worse. Her lawyer called her into the office 2 days later. He's claiming you manipulated Chloe during a medical crisis, the lawyer said carefully, that you coerced her into giving up custody. Madison laughed in disbelief. That's insane. It doesn't have to be true, the lawyer replied. It just has to sound possible. In court, the man looked clean, calm, convincing. He wore a suit, spoke softly. Told the judge he wanted to step up and take responsibility. He never mentioned the threats, never mentioned the fear. He looked like a hero. Madison looked like a woman who'd crossed a line. The judge ordered a temporary arrangement. Supervised visits, evaluations, home inspections. Madison walked out shaking. Outside, he passed her and leaned close enough that only she could hear. You should have stayed out of this. That night, Lily cried nonstop. Madison rocked her until her arms ached, whispering promises she wasn't sure she could keep. At 3 a.m., Chloe called from rehab. Did he scare you? She asked. Yes, Madison said honestly. Chloe went quiet. Then she said the words Madison feared most. Then maybe you should give her back. Madison closed her eyes. Don't say that. You have a life, Chloe said. I'm broken, he'll use that. He'll win. Madison drove to the rehab center before sunrise. She sat on Chloe's bed and said something that changed everything. Being broken doesn't disqualify you from being loved, she said. It qualifies you? Chloe cried into Madison's shoulder like a child who'd never been held long enough. But love didn't stop the system. A week later, the judge ruled that Lily would spend weekends with her father. Madison felt sick handing her over. The first visit came back with Lily quiet. Too quiet, she didn't cry, she didn't smile. By the third visit, Lily screamed whenever Madison put her down. By the fifth, Lily flinched at sudden movements. Madison documented everything, took notes, filed complaints. Nothing changed. Then one night, Chloe called, her voice frantic. He came to see me today, she said. He said if I don't testify that I'm unfit, he'll make sure I never see Lily again. Madison felt the room tilt. Did you tell anyone? Chloe laughed bitterly. Who would believe me? Madison did something she never thought she would. She asked Chloe to record him. The next visit, Chloe turned her phone on and let it sit in her lap. He talked. He bragged. He threatened. Every word dug his grave deeper. When the recording reached Madison's lawyer, the tone changed immediately. Emergency hearing, protective orders, psychological evaluations. In court, the recording played. The man's face drained of color. The judge didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He revoked visits on the spot. Outside the courtroom, Chloe collapsed into Madison's arms, shaking. "I thought I'd lose her forever." Madison held her tightly. "You didn't." But as they walked out together, Madison saw something she didn't expect. Fear wasn't gone, it had just changed direction. Because now the man had nothing left to lose, and people like that don't disappear quietly. If you're still watching, stay right here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because this part is where safety becomes an illusion and love is forced to choose how far it's willing to go. The silence after the hearing felt wrong. Too clean, too calm. Madison noticed it first when the streetlights outside her house stayed on all night and the black car didn't show up. No missed calls, no empty voicemails, no shadows lingering by the mailbox. "He's gone quiet," Madison told her lawyer. "That's not relief," the lawyer replied. "That's regrouping." Madison started locking doors twice. She changed her routine. She took different routes to the rehab center. Lily slept against her chest more often now, like her body already knew the world wasn't safe. Chloe felt it too. "He used to yell," Chloe said one afternoon, her voice low. "When he goes silent, it means he's planning something that doesn't need words." The restraining order arrived, thick with legal language and false comfort. Madison framed it and placed it by the door like a shield made of paper. 3 nights later, the power went out. Madison froze in the dark nursery, Lily half asleep against her shoulder. The house fell silent except for the baby's breathing. Madison didn't move, she didn't reach for her phone. She waited. A knock came at the door, soft, polite. Madison's heart slammed. Another knock, louder this time. "Madison," a man's voice called calmly. "I just want to talk." Lily stirred. Madison stepped back, phone shaking in her hand as she dialed 911. "I know you're in there," he said. "I'm not here to fight." Police sirens wailed in the distance. The voice outside laughed quietly. "You think paper scares me?" Footsteps retreated. By the time officers arrived, the street was empty. No car, no man, just tire marks fading into the dark. That was the night Madison moved Chloe in. Rehab protested. Insurance argued. Madison didn't care. Chloe came home to a crib, a ramp at the door, and a room filled with sunlight she hadn't seen in years. She cried when she saw Lily sleeping safely. "I don't deserve this," Chloe whispered. Madison answered without hesitation. "Deserving has nothing to do with it." For a few weeks, life almost felt normal. Chloe learned how to bathe Lily from her chair. Madison learned how to let go inch by inch. Lily laughed for the first time, loud, sudden, unstoppable. Then the call came. The lawyer's voice was tense. "He filed again. He's appealing the decision." Madison closed her eyes. "On what grounds?" "On yours," the lawyer said. "He's claiming you're unstable, that you're emotionally dependent on the child." Chloe overheard and went pale. "He's coming after you now." The investigation was brutal. Social workers arrived unannounced. Neighbors were questioned. Old photos were analyzed like evidence. Madison's past was pulled apart, every mistake held up to the light. One report read, "Caretaker shows excessive emotional attachment." Madison laughed when she read it, then cried until she couldn't breathe. One night, Chloe rolled into the living room long after Lily had fallen asleep. "I'll testify," she said. "I'll say I can raise her alone." Madison shook her head. "That's what he wants." "He's already ruining your life," Chloe said. "Don't let him take it completely." Madison knelt in front of Chloe's chair. "Listen to me," she said, voice breaking. "You are not the reason this is hard, you are the reason it's worth it." The next morning, Chloe woke up to an empty house. A note sat on the table. "I need to end this before it ends you." Madison panicked. She called Chloe's phone, no answer. Hours later, the hospital called. Chloe had admitted herself. "She said she's a danger to her child," the nurse explained gently. Madison dropped to the floor. When Madison reached Chloe's room, Chloe wouldn't meet her eyes. "I'm tired," she said. "I'm tired of being the weakness everyone uses." Madison took her hand. "You're not weak, you're human." Chloe finally looked up. "Then why does everything hurt this much?" Madison didn't have an answer. Outside the room, the lawyer waited. "The appeal hearing is tomorrow," she said. "And there's one more thing." Madison braced herself. He's requesting emergency custody citing Chloe's hospitalization. Madison's chest tightened. So this is it. The lawyer nodded. Tomorrow decides everything. That night, Madison sat between Chloe's hospital bed and Lily's crib in the visitor's room, not sleeping, not praying, just listening to two heartbeats she refused to lose. As dawn broke, Madison realized the truth she'd been avoiding. Love had carried them this far. But tomorrow, love would have to prove it could stand in a courtroom and survive. If you're still here, don't stop now. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it, because this final part isn't just an ending, it's the reason this story needed to be told. The courtroom was colder than the hospital ever was. Madison sat on one side, Chloe beside her in a wheelchair, hands folded tightly in her lap. Lily slept in a carrier at Madison's feet, unaware that strangers were about to decide where she would grow up, who would tuck her in at night, and whose voice she would learn to trust. Across the room, he sat calmly, suit pressed, hair neat, expression soft enough to fool anyone who didn't know fear the way Chloe did. The judge entered, everyone stood, and just like that, the final fight began. The man's lawyer spoke first. He painted a careful picture of a disabled mother unable to cope, of a woman who had overstepped boundaries, of a child who needed structure and stability. Madison listened without interrupting, even when the words cut deep. She is emotionally dependent on this child, the lawyer said, gesturing toward Madison. This is not healthy. This is obsession disguised as love. Chloe's hands began to shake. Madison reached down and rested her fingers on the carrier. Lily stirred slightly, then settled. When it was their turn, Madison stood. She didn't rush, she didn't raise her voice. I didn't plan this life, she said simply. I didn't ask for it, but when a child was left alone, I stayed. When a mother was scared, I didn't walk away. If that's obsession, then maybe the world needs more of it. The judge turned to Chloe. Miss Reynolds, he said gently, do you believe you are capable of being a mother? The room went silent. Chloe took a breath that seemed to come from somewhere deep and broken and brave all at once. Yes, she said, not alone, but with help and with love. The man laughed under his breath. The judge noticed. Do you have something to add? The judge asked him. He stood. Your Honor, I just believe biology matters. A child belongs with her blood. That was when Chloe did something no one expected. She lifted her phone. I recorded you, she said clearly. The threats, the control, the nights you told me you'd take my baby just to punish me. The courtroom froze. The recording played. His voice filled the room, angry, cruel, undeniable. When it ended, the silence was deafening. The judge didn't look at him again. He looked at Lily, then at Madison, then at Chloe. This court does not reward fear, he said, nor does it confuse blood with love. He paused. Custody will remain with the mother, Miss Reynolds, with full legal guardianship shared with Miss Carter. The petitioner's rights are terminated effective immediately. Chloe collapsed forward, sobbing. Madison caught her. Outside the courtroom, the man walked past them without a word, smaller than he'd ever been. He was gone. Months passed. Life didn't become perfect, but it became real. Chloe went to therapy, learned to move again little by little. Learned to trust her strength. Lily learned to crawl, then stand, then laugh so loudly the neighbors smiled instead of complained. Madison didn't give her life up. She shared it. One afternoon, Lily took her first steps right toward Chloe. Chloe cried like it was the first miracle she'd ever been allowed to keep. Years later, Lily stood on a school stage, clutching a paper heart. My family, she read, is my mom and my grandma Madison. They didn't make me alone. They made me together. The audience applauded. Madison felt Chloe's hand squeeze hers. That night, as Madison tucked Lily into bed, the little girl looked up and asked, Why did you choose us? Madison smiled softly. I didn't, she said. I stayed, and sometimes that's the whole difference. If this story moved you even a little, remember it, share it, and don't forget to subscribe, because somewhere right now someone is deciding whether to walk away. And staying might change everything.